Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another episode of Liberal White Dudes. I am Andrew.
I'm Jared.
I'm AJ.
And we are Liberal White Dudes. Tonight's episode is called Optimism. We'll chat a little bit about our optimism or lack of optimism
Or
our
or
pessimism.
Somewhere in between. Yeah.
But first, let's talk a little bit about Matt Gaetz.
Yeah.
Definitely.
He's a congressman still. You know, back in the good old days, something would start to come out, and the offending party would resign, and then they would sweep all the tawdry details under the rug, and then you would forget that person exists, and they would elect somebody else to their spot in Congress.
Yep.
That was
and you
when,
cut your losses.
Yeah, that was when like shame was a thing.
Yeah, when people feel like they couldn't just BS. I think what it is that people feel like they can just lie through it now. I think we've set up a precedent of just kind of like lying through it until it's
I think
over.
it goes beyond that. I think it's also just a lowering of the bar, essentially. Like, it's beyond lying, because Trump paved the way for no longer needing to lie about those things. Trump was on tape being a fucking asshole that was unelectable. So it wasn't like he could lie about doing that, but somehow it's evolved into this, system where the bar has gotten low enough to where you don't. I mean, clearly Matt Gaetz is denying these allegations, but
yeah, and that was sort of the thing that Trump laid down from early on through his entire presidency. You know, he was accused of sexual assault and sexual harassment from tons of women, and he just said he didn't do it. And that was the counterpoint.
Just how that worked out, yeah.
There was tons of forensic evidence that Russia interfered with the 2016 election. That was a thing that happened. Every intelligence agency confirmed it. And Trump stood up there and said, well, he says he didn't do it. So that is apparently the counterpoint to evidence.
Yeah.
A verbal declaration that it's not true.
Yeah.
Yeah, like for some reason that's how that works.
Yeah.
The burden of proof has fallen so far.
It doesn't exist. You don't have to
doesn't
prove
exist.
anything.
Yeah.
I just if you say a fact and I say no, that's not true, then we just have a disagreement. We have a difference of opinion.
A difference of opinion is really the way that people put it, and it is the most frustrating thing.
Or you take something large like the big lie about the election, and then their defense against these $1 billion lawsuits is, well, I mean, did you really believe that bullshit? I mean, that's the defense.
Yeah,
that
is
Sidney
what's
Powell's
written in
defense.
in the papers. Like, nobody was supposed to actually believe the nonsense that I was saying.
That was nonsense, obviously. It's just, so that's what I mean, where it's like we've reached a point where it's like you don't even necessarily have to stand by your bullshit anymore.
No. And the people
to lean in.
Who believe it
double
still
down.
Hear what they want to hear. They would say that wasn't, that wasn't not proven. Right?
Wasn't not proven. Yeah. That is the thing that they say the most often. I was arguing with someone recently, and then he was like, I feel this way about this. And I was like, okay, but where's your evidence for that? He's like, well, I feel that way and you haven't proven me wrong. I'm like, that's not really how proving things works. You have to provide evidence for your stance. If you feel a certain way about something, it's not just fact.
Yeah,
at that
I
point.
believe in underpants gnomes. And it's like, well, that's not a thing, and then you just, well, prove it. Prove the underpants gnomes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the things
my
that's one of the things
underpants.
like the example I used was a unicorn. It's like we don't know that unicorns don't exist. What we know is that there isn't evidence to support the fact that they do, right? So when you say I believe unicorns exist, and I say they don't, and you're like, well, you haven't proven that they don't. I'm like, just because you feel like they exist, that's not how that works. It's just not how evidence works.
But when you think about it, this is an ideology that the Republican Party really needs to lean into in a way, because so much of their base has become anti-science. Yeah. I mean, I just read an article about a real legitimate anti-science movement, and we're not talking boomers, just boomers. I mean, we're definitely talking boomers. We're talking a lot of boomers. But we're talking your age, Jared. We're talking college kids going to rallies, anti-science rallies. College-age kids is not going to college, I guess. Or I don't know.
It must not be.
But they must not be. Well, they're getting really lousy grades if they are, because most colleges teach science. But yeah, the real anti-science movement can really glom onto that kind of ideology, which is like, we don't have to provide proof that this science doesn't exist. We just got to believe that it doesn't because it serves our agenda.
Yeah.
And that's literally the end of the argument. There's nothing else you can say.
And as far as proof goes in the Matt Gaetz affair situation, there's tons of it. You know, lots of Venmo trail.
An orgy of evidence.
Yeah.
And you've seen his thing on Tucker Carlson, right? Where he was like, I didn't travel with a 17-year-old. I never traveled with a 17-year-old.
It's when Tucker Carlson's trying to distance himself, like just like kind of like, you're slimy. That's not a good place to be.
Best part about that interview, was when he was just like, well, Tucker, you've been, and he's like, no,
I don't think I have.
I don't know you. Prank caller. Click.
He's like, we went to dinner that one time. He's like, I don't recall going to dinner with you ever.
No,
Tucker turned into a full-on.
This is the first we're meeting. Yep. This is definitely the first we're meeting and talking for the first time ever. I don't know anything about the underage women that you may or may not have slept with for money.
Which you paid via the social media website Venmo for all to see.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just blatant.
Just wow.
And,
clever.
Really, the other guy's rolling over on him, so seems like he'll just go down in a fiery ball of flames.
Yeah.
And you've seen.
But here's
funny, when his stuff was like, when that first was coming out or whatever, I was like, saw a picture of him and I was like, I mean, yeah. He's kind of got like villain face. I don't know, like,
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Just in a lot of ways, like, it's like, I mean, come on. At least do yourself some favors.
Yeah, he's sleazy, like white guy. Like
later years.
But yeah, not according to him though. That's what what we were saying is that he really is just taking the Donald Trump route here and just doubling down. Saying shit like, "quote I'm built for the battle and I'm not going anywhere." End quote. It's like, you're probably going to jail, dude.
Jail seems like.
Are you also built for jail?
Likely.
I can't believe how many people now are not in jail from the previous administration or from the current Senate. I mean, they are tracking down a ton of the people who were physically there inside the Capitol, but there has been little repercussion for the people who incited those folks. I don't know if they're still
including
building a stronger
president.
case, but here we are mid-April. I mean, what's coming of that? I'm not optimistic.
Not optimistic about those outcomes.
I am optimistic about one thing though. To get into that, Jared, you said, "Is Matt Gaetz built for prison?" And I'm going to say I've seen the series Oz on HBO. He is. He definitely is.
Yeah, he's a pocket holder.
I'm optimistic about that.
It seems like
100%. Hold my pocket.
All right. So, optimism. I am not optimistic that people from the previous administration who were not physically inside the Capitol on January 6th will be going to jail. I am not optimistic that they will lose their seats in Senate and Congress, other than being voted out, which I am not optimistic will happen. There are some good candidates running against, Green Margarine and Gogurt and other folks. They have come out of the woodwork and they are, running in those districts. Will we get a better candidate than Beto O'Rourke against Ted Cruz? Probably not.
No.
Odds are low.
I mean, that's a great candidate to unseat that guy, and he did not win. I don't know.
But do you think this last year changes anything, though? I mean, do you think Cancun changes anything? Does it? No.
If you can make a joke about it at CPAC, I don't think that it's going to make much of a difference. To have uproar, the follow up to his joke. Yeah.
When you see, Ted Cruz's CPAC performance,
right?
It's awful. I mean, it is the stuff of nightmares, and there are people cheering and yelling, and finding it funny. I really don't understand the people. I mean, I've come to the conclusion that I do not understand the people who find Ted Cruz the least bit amusing.
I can only assume it's that they're so emboldened by their own hatred, mutual hatred. And, I mean, it's what I've seen so much in every Trump supporter, essentially, which is just they're so validated by your prejudices. And so, that's the best word for it, I think. They just feel so validated that people in position of power, like Ted Cruz, like Donald Trump, really validate that.
Dumb and hateful like they are.
Yeah, dumb and hateful like them, and make that okay. And they don't ever want to let that go. I mean, Trumpism's here to stay long after that bitch dies, because once you get a modern era president that's a full-on fascist, essentially, you reawaken that,
There is a current fight, between the Green Margarines and the Boeberts and the Liz Cheneys and the Mitch McConnells.
Sure.
I'm rooting for the Liz Cheneys and the Mitch McConnells, and I hate them.
Yeah. It's like one of those things where it's like the enemy of my enemy almost.
Well, I just feel at this point, I mean, obviously I'm not going to support any Republican, but there are Senate Republicans, at least a few, coming out being like, can we all just at least come together and reject these QAnon conspiracies? Like recently there was like a report come out where several Republicans were like, can more of us openly reject this bullshit? Like, we're losing our party to QAnon conspiracy.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
You read this bullshit? It's nonsense.
Yeah.
And if I was a Republican, I'd be losing my shit right now. I'm sure many of them are.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So not optimistic.
Not optimistic about that.
Well, no, but there are things I am optimistic about, though, with the Biden administration. I am optimistic about vaccines.
Yeah, no kidding. His posts about that have been really nice.
Yeah.
40% of Marines are passing on the vaccine.
Unbelievable.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was an article I just saw today, and I got to say, if we are the kind of folks who will point at a hill and say, you go over that hill, and there are bullets flying.
Yeah.
And that guy goes over that hill, right? I mean, that's his job.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Can't we tell him he gets a needle in the arm?
Yeah, right. Go die real quick.
I mean, honestly, why is this a choice? What
I don't
is
know
this?
Either. I mean, yeah,
the military should be vaccinated. Beginning, end of story. They get vaccinated with all kinds of crap before they go to their post in a foreign country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, my kid gets vaccinated all kinds of shit before he goes into his second grade class.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Measles, mumps,
I don't get that
the
either.
MMR, the whooping cough, all that kind of stuff. You have to have it before you can go to school. You have to have it to be a part of our society. Why
every
is
business
this so GD different?
Every business from now on will have a bouncer that checks you for a vaccination card at every door, like an ID for a bar.
Because
you can't come in.
It's because it was politicized. That's why.
Yep.
Because it was politicized. Exactly because these guys, I mean, you can't tell me these 40% of these Marines are anti-vaxxers. You can't tell me they all homeschool their kids. Yeah, the numbers don't check out. You can't tell me they all homeschool their kids and, refuse to give them, Wonder Bread and shit. Like, I don't know what anti-vaxxers refuse to give their kids, but I'm sure Wonder Bread's on the list. And whatever, and cinnamon toast
more Wonder Bread for me.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I agree. But so there's no way those numbers check out. So it's not vaccines; it's this vaccine.
Yeah.
Why is it this vaccine? Well, because getting this vaccine would be
Trump got it
buying
in January.
Yeah, I know. But see, it's
Rubio
beyond that
got
now.
it in January. Lindsey Graham got it in January. Ted Cruz got it.
But they've sowed enough doubt in the efficacy and in the function of it that people are just out.
I don't get it.
I know people that are not Trump supporters that are out just because of the
this is one of those that crosses lines, right?
Yeah.
You got hippy dippies who are anti-vaxxers, and then you've got anti-science who are anti-vaxxers.
Yeah, it's weird that QAnon movement hit a lot of holistic medicine groups.
Yeah.
And it continues to, because those conspiracy theories sometimes can cross over.
I mean, look at Q Shaman.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy.
Yeah.
That guy is not your typical conservative.
Yeah, no.
Right. Yeah.
But goodness gracious, I mean, the colors bleed together at that point, and everything just looks the same shade of red to me.
Yeah, they were just pulling together all the dumb and ignorant people from both sides of the aisle. It's not just
just
conservatives,
super conservatives.
Yeah,
I don't know, man. The thing I was interested in talking about too, in regards to optimism and pessimism, is where our sort of philosophies lie on that sort of thing. Because I think for a lot of people, some people, that whole glass half empty, glass half full thing is very binary. I'm either this way or I'm that way, and people talk about how those things manifest for them. So I'm curious how that stuff appears for you guys. AJ, if you want to start and move around.
Just like in general
philosophy, yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess I fall somewhere in the middle, to be honest. It's hard to call myself an optimist. I mean, I certainly operate as an optimist because I think as a parent, you're forced to. There's like this very at least in my view, there's a very baseline that parents have of optimism that I think at least a halfway decent parent has to try and meet. Otherwise, I feel like you are dooming your kids. So there's like you know what I mean? Like my children believe in Santa Claus. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. Like there's a baseline of optimism, of hope, of magic that exists in the world that you have to at least buy into to some degree, I think, to be effective as a parent. Just in my view. So I guess I do to some degree have a level of optimism. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like I fall in between. It ends up being more of like a case by case. I have a tremendous fear of death and the afterlife, and that tends to kind of infiltrate every little decision sometimes. So it's hard to be optimistic about things because most of the time I just end up thinking well, what's the point? I mean, so,
yeah, I feel that.
So I don't know. I don't know. It's a mixed bag, Jared.
That's why Nihilist Arby's hits so well.
Nihilist Arby's, yep.
Yeah. They're fantastic.
Agreed.
Yeah, for me, half empty, half full. I am more half full on a macro scale. I have optimism for America in the general sense. I have optimism for humanity in the general sense. I have optimism that we're going to figure out climate change and global warming, and we're not all going to be underwater and sunbaked and radiated, right, in the next 50 years. I have optimism about that. I have optimism that we will turn this ship around that is anti-science and anti-people of color and anti-trans people and anti-gay and difference in America, that the good people will win. I mean, I honestly have optimism that we eventually, because we're smarter, if nothing else, that we will eventually win. So I have optimism in the macro sense. In the micro sense, I have extreme pessimism. Whenever I'm driving, I just assume that everybody out there is, trying to kill me and not going to follow the rule of law in the store, that somebody's going to take the last thing of whatever, in a one-on-one sort of scenario, I'm pessimistic about other people's behavior and how my day is going to go in a general sense.
Gotcha.
If I'm not on vacation.
Yeah.
My optimism returns on vacation. Day-to-day life, pessimistic.
Yeah.
Pessimistic on the day-to-day.
I'm just trying to break it down. I'm thinking, so, okay, so we have one who's, every decision is guided by their existential dread and and fear of what comes next. And then on the other hand, we have just extreme micro pessimism in every situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the pandemic will be handled and over.
At some point,
still doesn't really support that. There are some terrifying variants, both in the Bay Area of California and in Michigan, that are running through young people, that are double ups from the UK variant and the India variant that may be, vaccine resistant. Damn it.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's really my biggest concern. Yeah.
continue to be petri dishes for this thing, the longer it has to get better at killing us, better in infecting us. And the infecting us part is what it's gotten really good at. The new variants are really infectious.
And it seems like the majority of Americans decided to stop wearing masks overnight or something. Have you noticed that? It has just been horrendous in the mask department.
Oh, really? I haven't had that issue as much, but
yeah.
We don't leave the house.
I mean, it's just so.
I don't leave the house.
Yeah. I certainly don't. Yeah,
but yeah, I feel I feel obligated to say that I agree with you in the macro sense. I definitely do have hope for humanity. Like, it's not all doomed. All those thoughts for me are more personal. Like,
I am doomed.
I am directly doomed. I don't even know if God exists, but somehow in my mind he does for me, and so it's gonna be really bad. I don't know.
And for me, I know that it doesn't come from any logical place. When I look at it logically and rationally, it's like, man, I really hate everybody. And I think of this as like selfish and self-serving and terrible people. Why do I have this macro sense that as a group we're somehow going to
we'll be fine.
Come that and be awesome all of a sudden? I do.
Do you think it's because you're? Do you think it's because you're a parent? Because I think that's why I feel that way. I think it's the only reason I feel that way. You know, I mean, I'm a parent to a lot of kids, and I have one that's not even here yet. She shows up in July, and so I have to think for her because I'm like, Jesus Christ, she's not even here yet. And this is already super fucked up. So, you know what I mean? Like, day one, when I met day one when I meet her, I'm going to be like, first of all, I just want to say, I'm really sorry about all this. Like,
there's a lot of nonsense going on, and I have no control over it. So
right out of the gate, we're gonna go and toss a presidential type pardon my way for the rest of your life, because I feel like at points she's gonna turn to me and be like, "What the fuck?" And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what happened there. So I feel like that's why I have to do it. I feel like that's why I have to believe that somewhere, somehow, some way, it's going to get better, because for her, for them, for that. I mean, I guess, I don't know. It's so cheesy, but it's like, maybe that's why.
Yeah, a little bit.
Your
but,
parents.
Think of the children.
Think of the children. Yeah. It's a good argument. It stands up.
Think of the children. Damn right.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've said that on this show before, and we say it now.
Yep.
Yeah, it's part of it now.
Think of the children.
Yeah. I think for me, it's interesting because it's like, I have a similar sort of feeling about the, whatever existential dread exists or whatever. But for me, I guess the optimism that I have on a micro scale is mostly just that everyone, and it came from this one instance at the library, but for me, it's that everyone else that I interact with, it came from a library. Yeah. Right. Because I'm a huge nerd.
Which is a very old-fashioned.
And I was there to run a Dungeons and Dragons game, so we'll double up the nerd. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so I was,
thanks for the invite.
I just was watching this. Yeah, right. I was watching this dialogue with this woman and her kid, and the kid asks some nonsense question where it's not really a full sentence or very coherent, and the mom just answers her some random answer, and I was like, see, aren't we all just kind of doing that? I mean, she just ad-libbed that. She doesn't know what her kid was going to say. She doesn't know what the answer to that question is. She just came up with that off the fly. So I just kind of assume, because for me, I had this sort of like image, I guess, in my head for a while that everybody else kind of knew what they were doing and that I didn't know what I was doing. And then I got out there and I was talking to people and I was interacting with people and just like, nobody has any idea what's going on. So I was like, I mean, this is fine. So I guess my optimism on a micro level just comes from the fact that I expect other people to be equally or less, or like equally or more confused at least than I am, So, on a macro level, that confusion I hope transcends to some sort of collective togetherness to solve problems.
I think there's. I was gonna say, I think there's truth to that. I kind of reached that point as a parent. Again, hate to bring that up again, but it's just it seems to bring out those things in you as a person. Because before I was a parent, I didn't think much of it. But I feel that way. I always had this like sense that for some reason my parents knew what they were doing when I was young. Like I just like really thought they knew what they were doing. And then, to a degree. I mean, obviously I had those like defiant teenage years where I didn't. But like for the most part, I just thought like my parents understood. Like my dad knows what's going on. I'm the same age gap that me and my father are that I am with my oldest daughter. And I'm like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing. So, and I'm like, my dad was my age when I was her age. And I don't think he had any idea what he was doing to some degree. And so I did kind of develop the theory that all parents are just kind of shitty and doing the best they can. And I think that kind of ties into what you're saying, which is like, yeah, I mean, certainly the expectation is you're human, so you're going to be a piece of shit. Like, like to a degree.
I use the word confused. I use the word confused, but sure. Yeah. Whatever variant there.
So, but you're right. There's comfort in that where it's like kind of almost like because I can kind of count on you to be a piece of shit, somehow I feel like collectively maybe there's comfort there.
That's one of the things that I enjoy about interacting with random people. Like when the lady behind the counter at the grocery store decides to interact with me, I just throw random nonsense into that conversation, just sprinkle in things that she wouldn't regularly hear, I guess, you know? Just like diversions from regular social programming. And I'm just like, she's not going to remember this. She doesn't care. I don't really care.
That sounds like the QAnon origin story, Jared, so be careful.
That's a good point. But, you know, it just can't, you know, I don't know. It's one of those things that's really interesting to me anyway, is that, you know, with that realization, like, I guess.
Do you find everything you needed today? And you're like, the voices tell me I got too much mayonnaise. And she's like,
1 second. Oh, hey, did we get everything we needed? No, we didn't get everything we needed.
I don't think you got any mayonnaise. And that's still too much. Bags, please.
Out. Yeah, not quite like that. Not quite at that degree, but, you know.
Then you start pulling out mayonnaise you brought from home. You're like, I need to.
Yeah.
But not like in jars, just like cups. Like in your hand, it's like loose.
And they're like, yeah, just scooping mayonnaise out of a bag. And you're like, it's too much. It's too much. If you want some.
Like, what is happening?
Can you jar this for me? I have too much.
Would you also like some mayonnaise? All right.
But yeah, that sort of thing.
She would tell that story the rest of her life.
Yeah, yeah, right.
She did an impression.
Yeah, and it's funny to me too. Like those like little, you know, this like what things do end up sticking with people. You know, there was a text post or something I saw where it was like, a watermelon on somebody's front porch is a very inexpensive way to maintain a certain amount of space in their memory for the rest of their life. You just buy a watermelon, leave it on their front porch, and then that's just a thing that happened to them now. You know? I don't know. It's interesting how malleable all that stuff is. To me, anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. It's humanizing.
Yeah.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I think that's good. It's good to have that perspective sometimes because, I mean, I think I'm guilty, certainly, and I know others are. I'm not going to accuse anyone on this show. But I'm definitely guilty of really demonizing the other side. And believe me, there's a lot to demonize them for. But at the end, something that, you know, actually, you know, I know you guys are reading Obama's new book. I had read it as well, A Promised Land. And there was a point in there, and I know you brought this section up, or this part of the book up on the show before, Andrew, about where, like, at their core, you have to believe that most reasonable Americans all want the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, they all want the same thing. Like, I mean, unless they're being unreasonable. Like, you know, they're an extreme
really
racist,
or
like they're, you know.
My optimism comes from is that I honestly do believe that. Yeah. And I think when you listen to the talking points that really hit, the meat of the base of both Democrats and Republicans, the meat of it is a better life. That's it. I mean, that's the meat of it. And
for every American.
Yeah, for every American. But especially the people who are hearing the message. I mean, there is a bit of selfishness, I think, to every
of course.
Every take. But yeah, I think and for most people it's for them and everyone they know. Right?
Right.
You only hate outside the circle of people you know. It's like, you know, I hate this type of person. And it's like, well, you have that type of person in your family. Well, not them.
Right.
They're a good one, you know.
Yeah, exactly. There's a bit of a cognitive dissonance there that exists, I think, for everybody, you know, where it's like, man, I have such ire for this, you know, this demographic or this group or whatever. And then it's just like, I have ire for their ideas and the way that they present them. But I assume individually, as I interact with those people, I don't, like, you know, I don't know. It's a different thing.
Yeah. So I feel like the optimism can stem from that place too, where you just feel like at our core, we all want the same thing. And that's why we have to believe that we're going to come out the other side of this anti-science movement.
Yeah. Because we'll find our way because we're all on the same team, you know, the human team. We're all on that team trying to move forward, trying not to destroy the earth, trying not to kill each other. Yeah, most people.
Yeah, most.
Yeah.
I'd say.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Right. That's what I
you
mean.
have-
People,
there's
you know,
not a river out there.
Some
that
people
doesn't
just kill
continue
other
to bend,
people.
right? Yeah, some people
Yeah.
kill other people
Yeah.
intentionally.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's been a real huge uptick in that recently. Every morning, my wife greets me with, "Hey, did you hear about the murder-suicide?"
Yeah.
Seriously, it's been
That's
like
quite-
all week. Most recently, an NFL player, you know, and it's just been kind of different demographics, different parts of the country. I think a lot of people are suffering from, you know, pandemic-related mental illness, regular mental illness. I mean, there's a lot.
Yeah.
Whatever, the cabin fever, as it were.
A lot out there. I'd like to spread some optimism as far as that goes. I am incapable of it. I don't know how to spread optimism. I will say, though, that for those people who want to hunt us down in person, we will be in Lost Wages. Not
Yeah,
just for
we
the
will.
Dozens LWD March, but later in May. And we'll, you know, talk a little bit about that when that gets closer.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. Put up a panel.
This show will be fully vaccinated by the end of April.
Yes, it will.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
true.
I was gonna say. That's one way I would say to, you know, like you said, maybe I'm not great about, you know, giving out a lot of sunshine, but I will say this: if you want some free advice, I'm not saying you have to take it. Maybe get vaccinated. Like, do that, please.
Yeah.
Get in there, yeah. Makes life a lot easier.
Yep.
Get vaccinated,
Get vaccinated.
and you know,
the faster
put your
we
mask
get
on and do
to,
some stuff.
you know, herd immunity, and the faster we can, you know, just end this altogether. You know, you don't hear about swine flu anymore. You don't hear about H1N1. You don't hear about Ebola.
Right.
You don't hear about
Right.
measles, mumps, a gash, a rash, and purple bumps.
And when
You
you
know?
do, it's because people haven't been vaccinated against them. And
Yes.
it causes
Yeah.
an issue.
Yes.
So,
The measles outbreak.
Polio hasn't really
in-
ravaged
yeah.
the country
Yeah.
in a long time.
And let's do this thing. Let's all band together.
Yeah.
You know, do it for the children.
or
Do
for
it
the
for the
children, guys.
9/11 first responders.
Sure.
I
Yeah,
have
do it for the
no
troops
idea how that
also.
ties in, but yeah,
Yeah.
do it for the troops who are
Do it for the
Do it for the
apparently
troops.
also not doing
Do it, yeah. Blue Lives Matter, except for when they're guarding the Capitol.
Sure.
Um,
But also there's a
yeah,
bit
all
of
those.
St.
All
John's
those.
wort in there and vanilla
Yeah.
root, just to hit all the demographics who may not be getting the
Little-
vaccine.
yeah,
Yeah.
a little vitamin D, I think.
Yeah,
Right.
I think they can give you
I
an
heard-
auditory stimulus while you get your
Yeah.
vaccine if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
that's a
Krispy
very
Kreme is still
sensitive
giving out
audience.
donuts. Yeah,
Whatever
Krispy
resonates
Kreme's
with
still
you.
giving out donuts. I think they're still giving out free donuts for
Yeah.
your vaccine. So
Some people tried to drag Krispy Kreme for doing
Incentive.
that, and then also tried to drag Krispy Kreme donuts. Shut up. Get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, that's dumb. Two, you're wrong.
Yeah,
So
first
it's
off,
strange.
free donut, and there's almost no better donut than a free donut.
Yeah, that is the
Yeah.
best donut, objectively.
Yeah, and in like 2-3
Yeah,
day
right.
old donuts, not very good. Krispy Kreme, not my favorite
Yeah.
donut. I got to be honest. But hot off
sure.
the rack, delicious.
Dope. Yeah, it's a
Now-
donut. What are you talking about?
just a sidebar here a little bit.
My favorite donut are always, fresh donuts, and I like a Boston cream donut, which is of course the custard-filled chocolate on top.
Chocolate on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a dope
Wow,
donut right there.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan
Yeah.
of that particular donut from almost anywhere.
I am
Yeah.
a
And in
big
fact,
fan of
Krispy
glazed
Kreme
Yeah.
is like one of my least favorite Boston cream donuts.
Which, by the way, you mentioning people trying to drag Krispy Kreme reminds me of all these Republicans now trying to drag corporations for speaking up.
Yeah,
And it's the hypocrisy levels
my
are
God.
through the roof.
through the
It's
roof.
just-
Did you see the picture, by the way, with Trump with the Coke on his desk?
Yes, it's fabulous.
He calls for
It's
canceling
fantastic.
Coke, and then a couple days later, picture with him on the Coke on his desk. He did put it like
Yeah.
behind a frame, sort of.
Yeah,
That's funny.
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, they're like cancel culture. This is not a thing, but also don't fly Delta and don't drink.
Yeah, and
Coke.
don't eat Krispy Kreme. Come
don't
on,
eat
like what are we
Krispy
what are we
Kreme.
even doing here?
Yeah.
Well,
That you know what?
they're
I'm
all
calling it here. I'm
throughout-
calling it here. They're destroying the American way of life. They want to. by stopping us from taking airlines and eating Krispy Kreme.
Look, Krispy Kreme is a deep fried, fatty food in the South. That's not going anywhere. That's not going anywhere. You can, I mean, they could come out and straight up get super hippy dippy. They could release the Colin Kaepernick donut, I think, and there would still be a line out the door when that sign goes red. They do pretty well for themselves.
They certainly
I just find it funny. It kind of reminds me of, I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but Desi Lydic of the Daily Show had kind of a segment on it where it was just kind of like Republicans, you know, they're definitely all about, you know, corporations, and they're definitely all about free speech, and they definitely need these corporations to stop speaking up. Like, I mean, like it's just, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just really funny.
Look
really
back on our hypocrisy show.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Where we talk about,
we're gonna have to do a part
how
2
it's just
and
not a
3 of
thing.
that because
It's not a thing.
Hypocrisy episodes into eternity.
You can just say whatever you want all the time, regardless of what you've said previously.
Yeah.
There's no
hypocrisy
shame in
episodes
it
will
at
be
all.
our right. Hypocrisy episodes will be our interdimensional cable. Just like every now and then, another hypocrisy
Sprinkle it in.
episode.
And you don't have to have shame about it, and you don't have to say you've changed your mind. No, I feel this way, this exact way, and also the exact opposite way when it suits me.
In regards to other, when it applies to someone
and
else.
I feel very strongly both ways.
Yeah, I feel very, very inexorably strongly about both things.
Unconvincingly so. Yeah, I'm rooted in my faith.
Yeah.
Okay? Rooted in my faith in Jesus on this side of it, and then on the other side, exact opposite.
All right. Well, hey, I'm optimistic about our future. I don't know about the future of our listeners, but our future is looking up. You can join us here every other Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific time here on YouTube, where you can subscribe to us to get notified when we go live, and then, you know, when there's a new upload. And then you can go on over to Facebook and like our page there, and of course we announce there as well, so you can get a notification there if that's your bag, baby. And then you can head on over to Twitter and follow us, where we're GD Hysterical. Hey, did we have a Twitter conversation with Craig Bierko? Yeah,
we did.
We did.
Go ahead and look him up right now.
I love Craig Bierko.
All right, everybody. Have a good night.
Night.